Building on his early success, David Cassidy's life took a tragic turn as alcohol consumption increasingly overshadowed his career and personal well-being. Despite his talent and charm, alcohol addiction grew into a relentless force that drained his energy and clouded his judgment. As he struggled to maintain his public image, alcohol worsened his emotional pain, leading to reckless behavior and strained relationships with family and friends. His career faltered as struggles with sobriety affected his performances and reputation. Financial problems compounded his difficulties, as costly addiction therapies and legal issues drained his resources. The cycle of drinking intensified feelings of loneliness and despair, making it harder for Cassidy to find stability or happiness. While he once captivated millions, alcohol addiction gradually dismantled his health, happiness, and sense of self. His life became a series of setbacks, marked by failed attempts to recover and rebuild. Alcoholism became a defining force that tore apart the promising future he envisioned and left a lasting impact on his personal and professional life. Growing up in a family involved in the entertainment world, David Cassidy was born in 1950 to actor Jack Cassidy and actress Evelyn Ward. From a young age, he was surrounded by the world of show business, but his home life was unstable and often difficult. His parents' divorce when he was still a child left a deep mark on him, and he spent most of his early years moving between New York and New Jersey with his mother. These frequent moves meant he changed schools many times, which made it hard for him to make lasting friends. During his teenage years, Cassidy became rebellious and restless. He often skipped school, got into trouble, and questioned authority figures. Despite these struggles, he found comfort and purpose in music and acting. Inspired by the Beatles and eager to perform, he started taking part in local theater plays and small television roles. He briefly went to college, but soon realized that acting was his true passion, so he dropped out to pursue a career in entertainment full-time. His early days in Hollywood were filled with obstacles, including many auditions, voice lessons, and rejections. However, his determination never wavered. Everything changed when he auditioned for a new musical sitcom, which ultimately launched his career and changed his life forever. Following his casting in 1970 as Keith Partridge, David Cassidy became the central figure of the television show The Partridge Family, which depicted a fictional family that formed a singing group. Although at first he was hesitant to accept the role because he was concerned about being labeled only as a teen heartthrob, Cassidy's worries were soon overshadowed by his rapid rise to fame. As the lead singer, Cassidy quickly captured the attention of viewers and became the breakout star of the show. His on-screen chemistry with his real-life stepmother Shirley Jones, who played his mother on the series, helped cement the show's popularity. The series was praised for its family-friendly humor and memorable music that appealed to all ages, making it an instant hit nationwide. As a result, Cassidy's face appeared everywhere, including lunchboxes, posters, and magazine covers, turning him into a household name. During the height of his fame, he received more fan mail than even Elvis Presley or the Beatles, highlighting how popular he had become. His concerts drew massive crowds of teenagers who were frantic to see him perform, often screaming so loudly they caused chaos. Fans would faint, security barricades would break, and many would rush the stage in their excitement. Behind the scenes, Cassidy was working constantly, balancing filming during the day with recording music and touring at night. This intense schedule was exhilarating at first, but eventually it felt overwhelming, and Cassidy began to feel trapped by the fame. Despite the commercial success, he often felt creatively restricted and considered himself more as a product than an artist with his own voice. However, even with the challenges he faced, the lasting impact of the Partridge Family and Cassidy's role in shaping 1970s pop culture remains significant. His influence on music and television is still remembered today, symbolizing a unique moment in entertainment history. Since the success of the Partridge Family started to fade, David Cassidy found himself facing many challenges. For years, the public had seen him as the perfect teenage idol, and he was famous for playing Keith Partridge. But as he got older, he wanted people to see him as more than just a boy band star. He longed to be recognized as a serious musician and actor. To do this, he began working on songs that were soulful and showed his deeper feelings. He also took on acting roles that were more complex and serious. Still, changing his image was difficult. Producers and casting agents could not see him beyond the character of Keith Partridge. Fans often continued to expect the young boy they had grown up watching, so Cassidy's efforts to reinvent himself faced many obstacles. As his fame declined, instead of feeling liberated, he started feeling trapped. The fame that once made him feel alive started to feel like a prison. He grew resentful of the media, which constantly controlled how he was seen and judged. The pressure and constant attention caused him anxiety and depression. To cope, he turned to alcohol and drugs, which initially were ways to escape, but gradually became long-term problems. His personal relationships became strained, and his professional life suffered as well. Even as he worked to find a new path, the shadow of his image as a teen idol lingered over him. He often felt haunted by the past, struggling to balance who he truly was, and who the world expected him to be. Cassidy's life was filled with ups and downs as he tried to break free from the image that had defined him for so many years. While David Cassidy enjoyed immense fame and earned millions during the 1970s, his wealth did not last. Instead, it quickly began to disappear because of his extravagant spending habits and poor financial choices. He lived a lifestyle that many believed only a superstar could afford. Cassidy bought numerous properties, luxury cars, and even private planes. He traveled constantly, hosting lavish parties and surrounding himself with many people who were often part of his social circle. However, he did not focus on saving or managing his money carefully. Instead, he neglected to create a solid financial plan or seek advice from trusted financial experts. One of his biggest mistakes was investing heavily in horse breeding and racing, a business that is known to be very risky and unpredictable. Cassidy believed this venture would bring him profit and happiness, but it resulted in large financial losses. Additionally, he trusted business managers and advisors who, at times, mismanaged his money or overcharged him, leading to costly legal battles over unpaid fees. His lack of formal financial knowledge and the influence of fleeting fame made him vulnerable to making poor decisions. Despite losing most of his wealth, his name still remained well known to many people in America. Despite his fame as an actor and singer, David Cassidy faced a harsh reality regarding his earnings from the Partridge Family. Even though the show remained popular for many years and the music continued to sell, Cassidy received very little money from these successes. When he was young and new to the entertainment industry, he signed contracts that heavily favored the studio and record label. These contracts were unfair and one-sided. They took away his rights to many royalties, especially from merchandise and reruns of the show. As a result, Cassidy did not profit much from the ongoing success of the Partridge Family. While the show aired all over the world and generated money, Cassidy's share was small. In his later years, he openly spoke about feeling powerless and used because he was the face of a big brand, but did not receive the financial rewards he deserved. His disappointment led him to fight in court, trying to get the royalties he believed he was owed. However, many of these legal battles were difficult and often failed. They sometimes cost him more money in legal fees than he gained. This experience made him feel betrayed by the industry he once loved, and it left him both emotionally hurt and financially damaged. Cassidy's story shows that fame does not always mean financial security, especially when young artists sign unfair deals without fully understanding their rights. His struggles highlight the dangers of corporate exploitation and the importance of knowing one's rights in the entertainment world. Later in his life, David Cassidy faced a significant decline in income that marked a difficult chapter in his career. By the 1980s and 1990s, his acting roles became sporadic, and the music scene had moved away from the style that once made him famous. As a result, he no longer received large royalty checks regularly, and opportunities for acting gigs dwindled. To make ends meet, Cassidy relied more on touring, fan conventions, and performances rooted in nostalgia. He approached these appearances professionally, and often drew enthusiastic crowds who still remembered his work fondly. However, behind the scenes, things were much more challenging. His financial obligations, which included mounting debts, legal fees, and unpaid taxes, continued to grow, and far exceeded his earnings. Years of inconsistent income and poor money management took a toll, gradually draining his finances. In 1995, Cassidy filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, revealing he was nearly $1 million in debt. His assets had been reduced, creditors were closing in, and the IRS was demanding payment for back taxes. This bankruptcy was not only a financial setback, but also a deeply personal and humiliating experience for someone who had once been among America's most popular stars. The process forced Cassidy to face the full scope of his financial collapse, marking a painful beginning to a long journey of trying to rebuild his life and career both economically and emotionally. Despite facing many setbacks, David Cassidy never completely gave up on himself. He was still driven by a strong love for performing and a wish to have some control over his life. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, he stepped back into the spotlight with new energy and dedication. He started touring again and reached out to his fans, many of whom still remembered him from his earlier days. Cassidy appeared in stage shows, including performances in Las Vegas, and he headlined concerts where loyal fans waited in long lines just to see him perform once more. Besides concerts, he made appearances on talk shows, joined reality television projects, and took part in different entertainment activities. One of his most significant efforts was writing a memoir in 2007 called Could It Be Forever? In this book, he was very honest about his life. He shared stories about how he became famous, the struggles he faced with personal problems, and the money issues that troubled him for many years. The book showed that he was humbled by his experiences, but he still felt grateful for his fans and for having lived his life fully. Although he didn't fully recover his finances, Cassidy found moments of calm and happiness through music and storytelling. His attempt to rebuild his life was not only about making money, but also about reclaiming his voice and finding true meaning in his journey. He also wanted to serve as a warning to younger artists about the dangers of fame without proper support or guidance. Throughout his life, he kept trying to find peace and purpose despite the difficulties. Once he reached the later part of his life, David Cassidy began to look inward and think about the choices he had made. He often shared openly with people, reflecting on the mistakes that contributed to his difficult times. Cassidy admitted that his youth and sudden fame made him naive about the entertainment world. He didn't have enough experience to understand how to handle the business side of his career, which left him open to being taken advantage of. He trusted managers and agents too much, overlooking their focus on making money rather than caring for his well-being. Cassidy also confessed that he believed his success would last forever. He thought that the fame, money, and admiration from fans would never fade away. This kind of blind trust in forever success led him to ignore the harsh reality that fame can be fleeting and unpredictable. He learned through painful experience that when fame fades, it leaves many challenges behind, including financial struggles, personal losses, and damaged relationships. Cassidy's story serves as a warning to young artists. He wanted to share his mistakes so others could learn from them and avoid making the same errors. His life became a story about the dangers of excess, but also about how unchecked fame can numb a person from making wise choices that would ensure a stable future. Cassidy hoped that by telling his story, others might escape some of the pain he endured. While focusing on David Cassidy's personal life, it is clear that his relationships and family experiences were often filled with hardship and emotional struggles. He was married 3 times, but none of these marriages lasted long enough to bring him true peace or fulfillment. The most notable and longest-lasting marriage was with Sue Schifrin, a songwriter and former model, whom he married in 1991. They shared a son named Beau, and for many years they seemed to find stability together. However, after more than 20 years of marriage, their relationship eventually ended in divorce in 2016. Earlier in his life, Cassidy fathered a daughter named Katie Cassidy with model Sherry Williams, but they were never married. Despite financially supporting Katie during her childhood, Cassidy was emotionally distant and often struggled to connect deeply with her. His life was heavily influenced by his work, personal issues, and battles with addiction, which made it difficult for him to maintain a stable and consistent family life. Publicly, he expressed love and pride for his children, yet privately, his relationships with them were strained and complicated, especially with Katie. His inability to keep a steady home life reflected the chaos inside him, showing a man who desperately desired connection, but was often separated from it by his internal demons. Cassidy's life was marked by a complex mix of love, loss, and internal turmoil, revealing the personal side behind his fame. Despite being the daughter of the famous actor David Cassidy, Katie Cassidy's childhood was marked by a lack of close involvement from her biological father. Born in 1986, she was raised primarily by her mother, Sherry Williams, and her stepfather, Richard Benedin. During her early years, Katie experienced a different emotional landscape from what her last name might suggest. Although David Cassidy provided financial support and occasionally acknowledged her publicly, he was not present during many important moments of her development. She would later openly speak about the emotional distance that existed between them, explaining that she never truly felt like she had a father in the traditional sense. While she appreciated his contributions as an entertainer, She couldn't ignore the pain caused by his absence, especially during her formative years when a father's guidance is often most needed. Cassidy's demanding touring schedule, struggles with addiction, and tendency to withdraw emotionally created a sizable gap between them. Growing up, Katie grappled with feelings of curiosity about her father, disappointment over his absence, and eventually a sense of acceptance about their relationship. Despite sharing some genetic traits and seeing some similarities in their careers, Katie carved out her own path into acting and found her success independently. The bond she had with her father remained more symbolic than deeply connected during her youth, shaping her understanding of family, love, and resilience. Despite the passage of time and various efforts, the relationship between David Cassidy and his daughter Katie remained complicated. After Katie gained fame in Hollywood with roles in popular shows like Arrow and movies such as Monte Carlo, there were moments when they tried to reconnect. Sometimes they met at public events or exchanged messages, showing a glimmer of hope that they could rebuild their bond. Cassidy often expressed his pride in Katie's success and his desire to be closer to her. He told interviewers that he hoped they could develop a stronger relationship someday. However, these efforts were often hindered by the pain from their past, old wounds that never fully healed, and misunderstandings that kept them apart. A very painful moment happened in 2014 during an interview when Cassidy said he had never met Katie's fiancé. This comment hurt Katie deeply, and she responded simply with the word "wow" on social media. That single word conveyed a lot, revealing the sadness, disappointment, and unresolved feelings that had built up over the years. It symbolized how fractured their relationship still was, with emotional scars and missed chances casting a long shadow. Though both Katie and Cassidy may have wanted to mend their relationship, the weight of their shared history made it difficult to tenant. Their connection remained more a story of what might have been than of what was truly possible. Since 2017, as David Cassidy's health visibly declined, he gave one of his final, deeply emotional interviews. At that time, he was secretly battling dementia, a condition he kept hidden from the public for a long period. During the interview, Cassidy appeared much frailer and more reflective than before, and his voice shook with emotion. He made a heartfelt confession, revealing that he had stopped drinking alcohol in hopes of rebuilding his strained relationship with his daughter, Katie. However, his efforts seemed to go unnoticed or rejected, which only added to his pain. Cassidy described feeling hurt and rejected, and he shared that the emotional distance between him and Katie was a wound that never healed. His words were filled with vulnerability, showing his inner confusion and regret. Many viewers saw this interview as a desperate cry for understanding and forgiveness, while others recognized it as a tragic reflection of how miscommunication, illness, and unresolved emotional pain can shape a person's life. Despite the challenges of his memory and health, Cassidy's description of his relationship with Katie revealed a profound grief he carried for years. The sadness and regret expressed in his words highlighted how deeply he mourned the bond they lost, making it one of the most heartbreaking parts of his story. His struggle to reconcile with his past and the memories of love and loss left a lasting impression on those who listened. Cassidy's story remains a poignant reminder of the cost of misunderstandings and unspoken feelings in lives affected by illness and emotional hardship. Although David Cassidy was a famous actor and singer, his daughter Katie Cassidy faced many challenges related to their relationship. When David made public statements that hurt her, she was surprised and felt sadness, but she responded with maturity and grace in interviews and on social media. She took the time to explain her feelings clearly. She said that she never hated her father, even though she learned to live without him because he was often absent from her life. She also shared that she had tried to reach out to him many times, offering friendship and connection, but he was emotionally distant and unavailable. Despite the pain, she told everyone that she still carried love and forgiveness in her heart. She understood that David struggled with his own personal demons, which kept him from forming a closer relationship with her. When David Cassidy died in November 2017, Katie paid tribute to him in a quiet and meaningful way. She wrote a heartfelt message on social media, honoring his legacy and sharing how grateful she was for the role he played in her life, even if their relationship was complicated. This message showed her deep respect for her father and her acceptance of their imperfect relationship. To keep his memory close, she also got a small tattoo of his signature on her wrist. This gesture was not only a symbol of remembrance, but also a sign of reconciliation and understanding. It reflected her desire to hold on to the good memories and to forgive the difficult parts of their story. Although they never fully reconciled while he was alive, her tribute showed her emotional strength and her wish for peace. She carried his memory with love, acceptance, and hope for healing. After David Cassidy's passing, Katie's reflections on her father grew deeper and more thoughtful. She began to speak openly about how she had come to accept their complicated relationship. She acknowledged that, although her father had often been absent in the usual ways, his struggles with fame, addiction, and mental health were issues many people faced, making her understanding of him more compassionate. She shared her sadness about the many moments they missed, the years that were lost, and the opportunities for closeness that never happened. Despite feeling these regrets, she also chose to see her father differently. Instead of bitterness taking over her view of his life, she found a sense of acceptance. She understood that he was human, with flaws and imperfections, just like anyone else. In interviews, Katie talked about the importance of forgiveness and letting go, especially because life is fragile and uncertain. Her words showed her not as a daughter full of anger, but as one who wanted peace and healing. She remembered her father with a gentle heart, honoring his memory through a mix of love, grief, and understanding. Her way of paying tribute was to reflect honestly on their relationship, accepting both the joys and the struggles, and recognizing the humanity behind the famous star that so many admired. While David Cassidy's early career brought him fame and popularity, his later years were marred by public scandals and troubling behavior. He faced multiple arrests for driving under the influence, which drew significant attention from the media and the public. In 2010, Cassidy was stopped in Florida after driving erratically. Tests showed that he had a blood alcohol level more than twice the legal limit, and police found a bottle of bourbon in his vehicle. This arrest sparked concern about his health and well-being, and he was sentenced to probation, alcohol education classes, and community service. However, these problems did not end there. Cassidy was arrested again in 2013 and 2014 for similar alcohol-related offenses. These repeated incidents led to further legal issues and increased public scrutiny. During this period, reports also emerged of his unpredictable behavior at concerts and public appearances, making many wonder about his state of mind and the level of his addiction. These behaviors threw a shadow over his efforts to revive his career and showed how his personal struggles continued to affect his life. The repeated incidents and erratic actions damaged his reputation, revealing the deeper pain and self-destructive tendencies he battled for years. His story became a cautionary tale about how fame and personal hardship can collide, leaving behind a legacy that is both celebrated and tragic. Because of his ongoing battle with addiction and health issues, David Cassidy's public image began to show cracks that many fans found difficult to ignore. Over the years, people who had admired him since his days with the Partridge Family started to notice troubling signs during his performances and public appearances. His shows in his final years were often marked by slurred speech, forgotten lyrics, and strange, unpredictable behavior. Many concerts were canceled unexpectedly, and the official explanations, such as exhaustion or illness, did not fully reveal what was really happening behind the scenes. The truth was that Cassidy's physical and mental health was rapidly declining, much of it due to years of alcohol abuse and the toll it had taken on his body. One of the most shocking moments occurred in 2012, when Cassidy suddenly collapsed on stage during a performance. Reports state that dehydration and liver disease caused by long-term alcohol use were major factors in his collapse. The image of him being carried off stage left many fans heartbroken because they had supported him loyally for decades and saw their idol deteriorate before their eyes. The lively, energetic performer who once captivated audiences with his charisma and charm was fading, replaced by a fragile, confused figure struggling to stay upright under the spotlight. These episodes of weakness and incoherence not only disappointed his fans, but also reflected the painful decline of a man who was once at the height of fame. The once bright star had dimmed, and the sight of his suffering symbolized the harsh reality of a life marked by struggle and loss. Immediately, the public response to David Cassidy's struggles became very divided. Some fans felt betrayed and frustrated because they believed he had become unreliable and failed to take responsibility for his actions. They expressed their disappointment loudly on social media and in concert reviews, recalling how Cassidy once inspired them with his music and charm, but later left them feeling disillusioned and sad. These fans saw his behavior as arrogance or neglect, especially when he canceled shows or appeared drunk during performances. On the other hand, many people responded with compassion and understanding. They looked beyond his mistakes and saw a man suffering from deep pain and illness. To them, Cassidy's mishaps weren't just acts of arrogance or carelessness. They were signs of a long-standing struggle with addiction and mental health issues that had been ignored or unaddressed for years. Many empathized with his vulnerability, recalling his honest talks about his addiction and his efforts to regain control of his life, however imperfect those efforts might have been. In this divide between anger and empathy, Cassidy became a symbol of the human toll of fame. He was loved by many, but also judged harshly by others. His life reflected how fame could bring admiration, but also misunderstanding and harsh criticism. Despite everything, he was remembered not just as a fallen star, but as a person who never stopped trying to fight his inner battles, even as the world watched him unravel and mourned his tragic decline. Then, as Cassidy's health continued to deteriorate and his struggles deepened, his appearances in the media became increasingly unsteady and unsettling. Instead of the smooth, polished interviews he once gave during his early fame, there were moments when he appeared disoriented and emotionally raw. His words were often vague or confusing, and his physical presence showed clear signs of frailty and exhaustion. These appearances made viewers feel uncomfortable as they saw a different side of the entertainer, one marked by vulnerability and pain. One of the most unforgettable moments came in 2017 during his appearance on Dr. Phil's show. In that interview, Cassidy sat hunched over, looking pale and fragile. With a shaky voice, he surprised everyone by openly saying he was dying. He explained that years of heavy drinking had destroyed both his body and his mind. He revealed that he had been diagnosed with dementia, a disease that had also affected his mother. His eyes filled with emotion as he talked about his memory lapses and the deep remorse he felt for his past choices. He asked for understanding, not pity, but his words carried a heavy weight of sorrow. That interview gave the public a rare look into his suffering, showing how addiction, health issues, and fame had all taken a toll on him over the years. It was a moment when Cassidy's raw honesty became a powerful and painful expression of his final battle. This appearance was a stark reminder of the high cost of fame and self-destruction, as well as the fragile line between success and decline. His struggle touched many who watched, highlighting the tragic effects of a life lived under the glare of the spotlight while battling personal demons. The interview on Dr. Phil marked a turning point in how the world saw Cassidy, not just as a star, but as a human being facing the inevitable with courage, no matter how heartbreaking it was. Although David Cassidy was well known for his musical talent and acting, the struggles within his family were often kept out of the public eye. His relationships with his family members, especially with his younger half-brother Sean Cassidy, suffered greatly as David's life took a downward turn. Sean, who also became famous as a teen idol, once shared a close bond with David, but as David battled addiction and unpredictable mood swings, their connection became strained. Sean found it difficult to watch his brother's health decline and felt helpless as David refused to seek help or admit the severity of his problems. This caused a rift, making their relationship colder and more distant over time. At the same time, David's relationship with his daughter Katie was also strained. Their disagreements played out publicly, with missed important moments and sharp words exchanged in interviews. The media often covered these conflicts, showing how addiction had broken the trust and closeness they once shared. For David, these fractured family ties added to his sense of loneliness. Even surrounded by fans and friends, he felt isolated because he couldn't restore the love and trust within his own family. His struggles with addiction not only affected his health, but also damaged the emotional bonds that should have brought him comfort. This heartbreak showed that even fame cannot prevent the deep pain of family conflicts and unresolved issues. When too much time passes without reconciliation, healing can become nearly impossible. Following this, David Cassidy's public confession revealed a man who had spent years grappling with the consequences of his fame and personal struggles. In one of his final interviews, his voice carried a tired but genuine tone as he reflected on his life with rare openness. He said, "I was given everything, and I threw it all away," a statement that struck many listeners deep into their hearts. This moment of honesty showed a man who had reached a point of clarity, acknowledging the toll of his choices. Cassidy's words were not just about the money he lost or mistakes in his career, but about the deeper damage he believed he had caused in his own life and the lives of others. He expressed regret over relationships he had damaged and time he felt he had wasted chasing illusions of eternal youth and control. His admission was a window into the struggles behind his public image, revealing that despite his fame and success, he wrestled with feelings of regret and personal loss. For fans and loved ones, this confession humanized him, showing that beneath the glitz and glamour was a man who finally saw through the illusion. It was a moment of vulnerability where Cassidy faced his own truths and was willing to own his mistakes. This final act of honesty helped many understand the complexity of his life and the emotional weight carried by someone who had once seemed invincible. His words served as a reminder that even those who appear to have everything can feel lost inside, seeking peace and understanding. Cassidy's candid confession became a lasting impression of vulnerability and regret, leaving behind a legacy of honesty in his final days. After many years in the spotlight, David Cassidy's life came to an end on November 21, 2017, when he passed away at the age of 67 from organ failure caused by decades of alcohol abuse. His health had been poor for some time, and he had been in critical condition for several days before he died. During those difficult days, he was surrounded by his family, showing that even in his final moments, he valued their presence. Despite the hardships he faced, Cassidy's loved ones made sure he was not alone as he faced his final hours. Reports say that in his last moments, Cassidy expressed pride in the music he created and shared deep sorrow about his personal struggles with addiction and fame. Throughout his life, he fought many battles with substance abuse and mental health issues, which were often hidden from the public eye. Nevertheless, he acknowledged his achievements and the ups and downs he experienced, leaving behind a certain sense of peace. His death prompted many heartfelt tributes from fans, fellow celebrities, and colleagues who remembered him not only as a pop icon, but also as a person who had a lasting influence through his music and acting. His passing caused renewed conversations about the costs of fame, mental health challenges, and the importance of compassion toward those who appear successful on the outside, but struggle internally. Despite the pain he endured, Cassidy's legacy endures, inspiring reflection and nostalgia among many who grew up listening to his songs and watching him on television. His impact on pop culture remains significant, reminding everyone of the complex reality behind the stardom and the human side of fame. Despite the darkness that clouded David Cassidy's final years, his legacy remains vibrant and enduring. For a generation of fans, he was more than just a teen idol. He was a musical voice that soundtracked their youth, a familiar face on their television screens, and a symbol of a more innocent era. Songs like I Think I Love You and Cherish continue to resonate, not just as pop hits, but as emotional touchstones that evoke fond memories and heartfelt emotions. Cassidy's portrayal of Keith Partridge helped redefine the role of musicians on television and paved the way for future artists to blend acting and music. Beyond the records and reruns, his legacy also lives on through his daughter, Katie Cassidy, who has carved out her own path in the entertainment industry with grace, strength, and resilience, qualities that stand as a testament to both her independence and the complex bond she shared with her father. David Cassidy's impact may be layered with contradictions, but it is no less significant. He remains a cultural icon whose work continues to be celebrated, even as his life serves as a cautionary tale. His influence extended beyond entertainment, leaving a mark on popular culture and inspiring many performers who followed. His songs continue to bring joy, and his character's memory reminds people of the power of music and television to craft lasting connections. Cassidy's story is one of talent, fame, struggles, and eventual reflection, making him a figure whose legacy continues to evoke admiration and respect. Building on his early success, David Cassidy's life took a tragic turn as alcohol consumption increasingly overshadowed his career and personal well-being. Despite his talent and charm, alcohol addiction grew into a relentless force that drained his energy and clouded his judgment. As he struggled to maintain his public image, alcohol worsened his emotional pain, leading to reckless behavior and strained relationships with family and friends. His career faltered as struggles with sobriety affected his performances and reputation. Financial problems compounded his difficulties, as costly addiction therapies and legal issues drained his resources. The cycle of drinking intensified feelings of loneliness and despair, making it harder for Cassidy to find stability or happiness. While he once captivated millions, alcohol addiction gradually dismantled his health, happiness, and sense of self. His life became a series of setbacks, marked by failed attempts to recover and rebuild. Alcoholism became a defining force that tore apart the promising future he envisioned and left a lasting impact on his personal and professional life. Ultimately, the story of David Cassidy serves as a powerful reminder of how addiction can secretly unravel even the brightest talents, transforming dreams into difficult struggles that are hard to escape.